So this was trippy as hell, fools, about Peter Joseph here. On his page, on Peter Joseph's first book, Purge, which he blocked me on, which he blocked Gary DeForve on February 12th. This was a long time ago. I'm still mad about it. I'll get you. All right, and this was the Alan Watts, which I've heard many on the public radio. Have I heard a lot about? That's where I first heard about. That's where I first heard about the lobster. That's where I first heard about Alan Watts, and I listened to him, and I like him. I actually have his books up here that I got from my dead friend Chad Elliott. But that's all right. That's unnecessary personal Gary DeForve information. But what I wanted to say, this had nothing to do. That was the most interesting about it, because it's called Alan Watts, Law of Attraction, most epic speech of all time by Alan Watts. But it says nothing about the law of attraction whatsoever. It says some weird shit about right, maybe here.
An express. Now, the computer speeds up linear calculation.
No, that's not hard.
First things they had to recognize.
He's always getting out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's like it comes back around. It's just Zen Buddhism. He explains Zen Buddhism and how to be groovy and how to be cool and relaxed. But the weird part here is at the end where they're getting into you don't need, they're trying to talk, I guess they're trying to talk people the values out of actually, you don't need a swimming, which just is true. I saw this thing about it. I think this is like the transhumanism movement, which is just another technological. What was that guy's name? Peter. I gotta find that one. But this had nothing to do with the law of attraction. It said nothing about the law of attraction, but it did talk about how you don't need a swimming pool and you don't need all these other things to be you just live a simple life. He doesn't even have a television. What a simpleton. Which is true. Which is true. You don't need all that crap.
Is that you can't put creative research people under the clock.
Okay, this is just a boring point about. But I've heard all this stuff.
There cannot be commerce.
No.
But actually, fascist states, corporate states, totalitarian states are utterly against free enterprise.
This was the interesting part, which makes it. This is the interesting part because this is a big part of Mormonism, which the Mormons, like this esoteric entity guy, is big into agorism and alternative. Basically, I think you just kind of create an alternative state outside the state and you don't participate. You stop using their money, you use the cryptocurrency, and you don't try to work within the system and try to take over the system because you can't do it. Because as Peter Joseph will say over and over, it's pointless to try. I gotta take a Sudafed or something. But there's an interesting thing here. Doesn't mention the law of attraction at all. But what I was talking about is how the Mormons and how the 23rd degree Masons, which comes from the 23rd degree Masonry secret society philosophy, which has that's where The Secret comes from, like Oprah's The Secret. So it's just where a lot of this crap just comes from the secret societies and goes back to I'm not sure Manichaeism, but goes back to older schools of Zoroastrianism and other schools of ancient philosophy, and this is the religion of white supremacist racists. It just happens to be, and it's also the de facto philosophy, this sort of creator religion that sort of basically is the secret. In other words, you're basically becoming a god in yourself because you like manifest what you believe. Just like I said before, like Hitler, basically, he did these rituals, and they did like very obviously. He was incredibly successful, and he was involved in these same types of secret ritualistics, which also is the point behind Oprah stuff. Like, so that it is like this. It is this link to Masonism, to secret societies, and to ancient philosophy, and it links the white racism and which of course Mormonism has that weird thing where where the brown people were made not so delightsome to, which I find them extremely delightsome. Let me say, as far as lying with them. Anyway, I'm thinking about lying with brown people. No, brown ladies. But anyways, so it's just interesting that he doesn't have. So now we're going to listen to this little snippet here. Why is this why is this showing up on? Why does this say law of attraction? He says nothing about the law of attraction. Please watch this. Go to Peter Joseph's Facebook site. Watch it. Take a look. I was blocked from this last week just from just making the same stuff because it seems like it's peculiar. The kind of stuff that they're saying. Listen to this.
And therefore, it becomes increasingly difficult to do anything. Business is inhibited. But it just can't happen. The society at the moment is mutual mistrust.
Oh, this is good. I'm going to go.
There cannot be commerce, and therefore there cannot be commerce, which really, broken down, means being merciful to each other.
This is like weirdly sort of like their philosophy of the commerce, where that's part of the neoliberal philosophy, where you're a homo economicus, you're like an economic entity on your own, and so you have the agency of your economic. I mean, this is all part and parcel of the neoliberal philosophy, which is derived from, the objectivist. There's a direct line with Ayn Rand and Nietzsche, and then there's the Madame Blavatsky, who was is my tea water hot? Who was somebody that Hitler would have studied, part of the mysticism of the time. But let's continue on with this. This is very interesting.
There cannot be commerce without mutual trust.
No commerce without. They always talk about there cannot be commerce without mutual trust. So they talk about the non-aggression principle. So it has to be mercy and trust, and it almost is like they're almost alluding to like libertarian theology, because it is a belief system. It's not like it's quite different from the progressive, which is I guess it is a belief system that we believe we can somehow change things through democratic means.
And there are even insurance companies called mutual trust.
Just random aside.
But it just can't happen. The society at the moment is mutual mistrust. And therefore it becomes increasing.
I certainly distrust the corporate state. I don't think it's mutual mistrust. I think all the people at this time, we all distrust the corporate state, right?
It's extremely difficult to do it.
We know who the villains are, so it's like, it's just clearly, to me, it's just like, that's another big point of libertarianism, is they're trying to freedom, they got all this stuff. Don't worry about the fact that they got $100 billion and you got nothing. Don't think about that has anything to do with anything. Income inequality, that's not a problem, Bernie Sanders. In your, debunked.
Business is inhibited by the lack of free enterprise.
That's why it's the most epic speech of all time. Business is inhibited by the lack of free enterprise. So why is this about? Why is this like law? Why is even law a true tragedy there? That's why I'm saying it's this hippy dippy trippy spiritual, thing in this play that they're putting on, for which a certain amount of libertarianism is a play, is a well, they talk about on the Young Turks, they talk about the Kabuki theater. Stop right. They talk about all right. Let's listen to some more.
Well, that sounds very right wing.
That sounds, and he's even saying that sounds very right wing, as it is.
But actually, fascist states, corporate states, totalitarian states.
Corporate states, which is what we have now. So fascist, okay.
Are utterly against free enterprise.
Fascist states, which is very true. Very true in the system we have now. So, so you would think, what would be based on what he's saying, or what would be the basic fix for that? To like control them through democratic means. I can't believe that Alan Watts is he's not a libertarian. I just don't believe it.
So let's push this a little further.
Please.
St. Paul said that the laborer is worthy of his hire.
Interesting.
And I, as a philosopher, mere philosopher, dealing in higher things, always insist that I be paid for my work.
Interesting. This is St. Paul?
And I get the highest fee I can get. And people say, well, you're just out for money. I say, that's none of your business. Because I give most of it away. My own needs being extremely simple.
Is he talking about St. Paul himself?
I don't even own a television set.
St. Paul did not have a television
set. It's a very simple life, but I've got enough. And enough is as good as a feast.
You should get your highest fee in
the
the system,
people
obviously.
Don't feel happy unless they have another
and
thing
really,
beyond money.
People, if they were truly moral, I don't see how they can. Well, Buffett eventually is going to give 90% away. So I don't know. Maybe that could work.
Which is called status. And status, to a very large extent in our economy, consists in conspicuous.
Well, is by maybe that could work. Maybe. Well, I don't see how it would work outside democracy. We're just allowing them to have that much control just so they could, that's obviously flawed where we're going with that. Oh, look, there's a weird picture of Alan Watts there. I really don't know what he looks like. That looks different. That to me looks like the actor. What is his name? The guy from 1984, actually. The British dude. Oh, you know him.
In having this thing and that thing and the other thing, in having a swimming pool, a Ferrari, certain kind of clothes, and certain kind of house with an enormous round-style picture window, and so on and so on and so on. And we think we need all that because we've been persuaded by a certain kind of propaganda.
Very true. I'm persuaded by the opposite propaganda. To me, this is more like a commie kind of approach from him. Is that I don't know if he's into totalitarian forcing the rich to not live like that. Then, we don't need that, or they don't need that. Or are they stopping us from even, that's what we're talking about now. And that's really what Peter Joseph does not, that cost of housing and how that relates to economics and, the whole thing, I think just has to be approached in terms of things, as a robbery from traumas. There's just no other way to. I mean, I just don't know how to see it in any other way. They're basically stealing our productivity through fraud.
That's how we ought to live.
And this one, though, what was that? Another 15? Good work. I think you're getting okay. I mean, on the job training debunked.